Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Lag Plays. We're going to try something different today. We're going to have a round table conversation about the game Foxhole. I'm joined with Stranger Days and Super Poncho Man, and we're going to have a little conversation and just bounce off each other and talk about Foxhole. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, go right on ahead.
Babadoo Bing, friendos, I am Stranger Days. You will often see me in the background of his videos, usually screwing up, but sometimes I actually do the right thing.
Alright, I'm Poncho.
Hello world, just Super Poncho Man, your friendly neighborhood superhero.
Alright, and Stranger Days is one of the leaders of the Assault Support Services, also called ASS.
We're the rear of the army.
They're in the rear with the gear. So we're just going to go ahead and just begin the conversation. And I would like to talk just a little bit about some of the stuff that was in the dev stream. And what they what they have is like some heavy machine guns that are going to be mountable. The outpost is going to have a stockpile system in it. Let's see, there's going to be new models for the Wardens and Colonials, and hopefully there's going to be some female characters later on this year. What do you guys think about all that?
Well, I haven't actually seen the dev stream, which will be interesting to talk about it from the perspective of somebody who has literally no idea what we're conversing about.
Oh, okay.
So when we say that there are going to be mountable heavy MGs, do we mean like now if you crouch behind a stone wall that you'll instead put the MG on top of it?
Yeah,
Yes.
What it was sounding like is if you're able to leap over it with your character, you'll be able to mount the heavy machine gun onto it.
That actually sounds really amazing.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Very interesting.
If that's going to be in this coming Thursday, then that'll really help us out with our general strategies for assaulting, because a lot of the towns that we plan to attack have a large number of low stone walls that you normally can't shoot over with MGs.
Yeah, most definitely. What do you think, Poncho? Good idea, bad idea, indifferent?
Great, dude. Good.
Great idea.
Solid.
All
It should have been there from the start, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of a
this
thing that should have been
is
there from the
pre-alpha,
start.
so I wouldn't even really say it's a start. We're like the Wild West town.
Right,
we're
like
outlaws.
the beta testers of the game. They're getting some free beta testing out of all of us.
It's not even a beta test.
Right, free alpha test.
Free alpha test.
Yeah. All right. Oh, go ahead.
Other than that, though, so that means that it's going to be a lot more important to build up sandbags, I feel.
Yes, I think sandbags are going to be more important, and you don't have to. You're gonna want to drive around those when you're driving your truck and just not drive through them anymore.
Because one thing I have noticed about the HMG, since it's so low to the ground and it has such a large inaccuracy cone, it's recoil. You have a very high chance of actually your bullets just hitting the ground right in front of you.
Yeah, you just kind of gotta just spray and pray and hope you hit what you're shooting at.
But now with the whole sandbags and mounting them thing, you can actually probably hit targets that are further away, even if they're prone.
Yeah.
That'll actually.
And they were talking
really
about having them be mounted onto the garrisons, which is another thing we could talk about. They're going to be putting in garrisons pretty soon. I guess it's going to be a new building. You can build up a building into a garrison. So it's going to be like a super pillbox, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work.
From what I understand, it's going to essentially be the houses in game, you repair them to a workable fashion, And from several different directions, you now have essentially foxholes. So you get a super foxhole, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
And allied troops can hop inside of it like you would a foxhole. I don't know if we can move around in it, or if we're going to take up a specific position, in which case we probably hop in through windows and doors.
What it seems like is it's gonna have like multiple stories, is what they were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
What it might do in that case is that when we hop in, it will actually be put on the second story, which would be really interesting to see some mortar fire coming down from a rooftop.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know. It depends on which end of the mortar you're on, I guess.
I mean, either way, because you're gonna get mortared. If you're gonna get mortared, then you're gonna hit the rooftop first.
Right. So anything
But yeah,
you want to talk about, Pancho? Any ideas or anything that could be in the game or
frustrations
So to
with
clear up, you can't build it anywhere. It's just buildings that are already like in towns.
yeah,
yes,
it's gonna be
we
in the
repair the
town.
ambient structures.
Yeah, I
So
feel
like
like
all of those buildings we keep running through and people keep ducking into.
I
We
feel like it's just gonna be an easy target, honestly, for the mortars for sure.
Well, I mean, that's why they're so large, and I would imagine that they have decent health pools, but they also are rather visible, so you can easily avoid them and walk around.
Yeah, it would definitely be like a artillery target, I think.
Yeah.
That's going to be nice, because that's a little bit of a buff to the artillery then, a bigger artillery target.
Yeah.
I suppose, though, that it does also mean that you could block the town hall from getting destroyed by building up a garrison.
Yeah, you can fix those buildings up around the town hall and kind of have that cone of defense so they just can't walk up and throw a satchel charge or something in your town
Yeah.
hall.
Also, I would find it rather interesting if we could actually store some items in the garrisons, because then could you imagine putting, say, a few rifles, a few or packed rifles up on the front line, and then if somebody's gonna hop into the garrison rather than use their shotgun, they could pull out a rifle and then attack from the second story.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I'm not sure if the devs are going to be doing that because I was watching the stream and they were kind of talking about like the stockpiling that they have for the town halls now, kind of like as a stopgap measure, and they didn't really think that like the players would take to it and use it so much. What do you think about the stockpiling system anyways, you guys, the new stockpiling system?
It takes far too long. I like the idea that we're able to store more, but I feel like they did some wrong things with it. Like, for instance, with artillery shells, I like artillery. I like artillery because you do a large amount of damage over a very vast distance and possibly just remove yourself as a target of retaliation from the enemy. The only thing that can really hit you if you're artillery and you're in the back is another artillery.
Yeah.
Sort of like playing a game of battleships, I guess.
But the system now for sure works way better than before.
Yeah, it does cut down on the griefing. That's another thing I wanted to ask you guys about. Lots of people have strong opinions about the griefers in a Foxhole. So, what are your guys' thoughts, Super?
Hate them. Don't like them.
So,
Put a sign on their
uh,
head and kick them out.
I feel like maybe a dunce hat wouldn't be too far off, a sort of signal that this person has been kicked for griefing.
Oh,
Like,
dude,
if they
replace
were to
it for
have-
their helmet.
Yeah, maybe have some kind of like tag that's stuck on them. That wouldn't
Yeah.
be a bad idea, actually.
What if in the
That'd be
vote kick
hilarious.
system there was a message you could send, and then there's also like a drop down list, sort of like in other games. If you're reporting someone, you put down they did this in this game. So you could say stealing resources, and if they get reported often enough for stealing resources or griefing, it has the little dunce hat on them,
Yeah, most
and it'll have a
definitely.
tag next to them: team killer, griefer, thief.
Yeah, because that's a pretty big problem, and I think they should address that in the game right now before it gets too far, and have some kind of system in place that allows the players to actually control who's being the griefer or being griefed. You know what I mean? Kind of like
So a few different points on that. There is a game that came out a while back called Running with Rifles. It is similar in nature to Foxhole, but its community is toxic as fuck. The reason for that is that Running with Rifles is a game where special items drop. And so there's this big combat and conflict over, well, that's my item. Yeah, but you died, didn't you? I was using it to kill enemies. Yeah, but it's my item.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is like coalitions, kind of. I would say start kind of the griefing because some of the people that aren't in coalitions feel like, well, I should be able to use that stuff too, but they don't realize that that coalition has spent the time to build up those resources for the
Yeah.
coalition, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing I'd like to address, and we can get to that in a moment. But for now, continuing onwards with the reasons why Running with Rifles I feel failed, there weren't any tools for the community to actually cooperate. It was all just sort of gold farming and trying to get items and working towards being able to buy specific things, and nobody ever wanted to use your powerful, cool candy weapons because they had a rare drop rate and, well, they're your item. Why would you let anybody else take your item?
Yeah, exactly. It's more of like a trophy item, and you don't take
Yeah.
out your trophies, you know.
Yeah. Foxhole is different though because everything that's in the game can be made.
Yeah, there's no like
Yeah.
special things. So I really don't see why people take stuff other than they just don't want to do the farming, which is another thing I want to talk about is oh my god, the collection system in that game is just, it's horrendous. I mean, I know that you have to farm to get stuff, but usually it comes down to just one person farming, and they're in the rear and just sitting there farming stuff for like hours while the rest of their team is out in the front having fun. And there has to
Yeah.
be some kind of dynamic system or something that keeps those guys, you know, in the back with the sledgehammers entertained, because oh man, it's just mind-numbingly boring, you
I
know.
I saw somebody on a post talking about that, and they had said automated miners, which I'd actually like to get into the thought of that. So if you had to basically build this structure and it costed tech parts and refined mats and so on and so forth, so either way you still need to sort of farm up to get to it, and then it starts out at like a level 1, and then you put more refined mats into it and you upgrade it, and then instead of hitting like as though it was two guys with hammers, now it hits as though it was two guys with sledgehammers, and it starts to slowly collect it up. So rather than you have a farmer in the back or a logistics guy in the back hitting scrap and then taking that scrap and refining it and then taking that basic mats and then making those into guns, you instead have somebody who's sort of maintaining 2 or 3 different fields and driving between them. And so now he has a lot more to do, because even when you're in a truck, the game is a lot more interesting. Just passing by and honking at other logistics guys,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe taking
exactly.
someone to the front.
I was thinking more of like an NPC type character or something like that. But yeah, definitely like some kind of something that just gets them out of the scrapyard. Because I think once you initially get there and get your first truck or so, you know, and your
How
motorcycle or
about
whatever, you really don't want to. You don't really don't want to be in the scrapyard getting scrap anymore. You know.
how about a mining hut?
Yeah,
So
but
you build up this mining hut and it has inventory slots in it, so it can only hold so much scrap. And then it
yeah,
spawns NPCs, and as you level it up, you get more NPCs that spawn from it. You can claim it if you're a coalition, but otherwise anybody can come by and pick up scrap and then take it to the refinery. So essentially you're able to more easily upgrade the mining hut if you have more people in your coalition, and the more people you have in your coalition, the more sort of miners that you have, and then you can actually work on supplying your team.
Yeah, that would be
that
actually a
could
good
work. Yeah,
idea. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds really good.
So it's just like little basic AI units, not really AI. They're literally like fresh spawns. They have their hammer and then they have a pistol and then they fight the enemy.
Yeah,
So they have a
exactly.
very limited collection speed.
Yeah, so that way it's not too overpowered. So that way
Yeah.
if like one side has like say 50 players and then the other side only has 10, well obviously the side with 50 players is going to dominate them. So there has to be some kind of balance for that as far as the scrap collecting, automated scrap collecting goes. But yeah, that's a really good idea, like a hut that just
Yeah.
spawns NPCs out, and
Well,
then that'll give the enemies more of a reason to go into the scrapyard, and they'll see
yeah.
those NPCs there and shoot them or whatever, you know.
It's interesting because there are now two ways that you could go about taking out a scrap field operation. So you could either mortar or artillery it from a distance and destroy the hut, which with the hut gone, the NPCs might disappear over time. Or the other option is that you could go in there and you could kill the miners themselves, who would then take a large amount of time to respawn, possibly also needing to have spawn supplies.
Yeah, maybe you need to have spawn supplies in the miner's hut in order to keep the scrapper guys going. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Also, it would give us more reason to go to make spawn supplies, because I've noticed that a lot of the times we're just like, spawn supplies? I mean, do I have to? It's 40 mats per spawn supply, and they take forever to build.
And
It
once you
might
get
be
like
interesting.
100, that's like all you really need, unless like you have a lot of people in your coalition.
Meat grinders, man. Meat grinders.
Yeah,
I've seen so many times when 100 spawn supplies will go out the window just because you're constantly fighting with an equal force, just butting heads.
yeah. Just like that bridge battle that we had for the war last week. They
I
were
mean,
just
I
throwing
think it would
soldier
be
after soldier at us, and we were just shredding them.
I think it would be interesting if when you put spawn supplies in the spawn hut, if rather than having to go in and click it individually, it would sort of continuously tick a spawn supply out every once in a while in return for the material. That's where the real factory should get going, not in our actual armories yet.
Yeah, I think so because we can make stuff. And then speaking of armories, I had an idea also about having like a cooldown timer because there's always a problem where people will come and start making stuff with your materials in the armory, you know. And I was thinking like once a person queues up something, there's like a cooldown timer, and only that person can take stuff in or out of that armory that particular one that they're using. You know what I mean? And then once like I don't know, 10 seconds or whatever arbitrary time it is, you know, 15 seconds or whatever, uh then it'll open up, and then whatever's left in there, someone else can come grab the stuff out of it and then start using it, and now it's locked up, you know, for that
Well,
amount of time for them. And
what
that would
about
stop a lot of the inner team stealing type stuff.
what about this as an idea? So I've noticed quartermastering happens a lot. Quartermastering is where one player decides, you know what, we need weapons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on this armory and I'm going to do nothing but produce weapons for our team. I'm going to fill up chests. And that's awesome because that means that that player is sort of shortening out their fun so that way somebody else can go and have fun.
Yeah, most
And a lot of the
definitely.
times people will come up to the armory and they'll try to make things, they don't check chests. So what if we had a system wherein somebody could, for a short amount of time, claim an armory, and as long as they repeatedly made weapons out of it and they repeatedly sort of used it, they were able to keep it under their control. But once you leave it for a period of time, then anybody else can hop in and start making weapons.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, you know, with like the cooldown timer kind of thing,
Yeah.
where it's
Same
just,
idea.
yeah, where it's just, you know, that person is using it, you're gonna have to wait in line, you know, until they're
Well, I
done.
mean, the difference is that you were talking about more of a individual system. I was talking about where one player could say, "I am now the quartermaster for the armory." Possibly there could be like a link above their head to the armory or quartermaster, or it could say above the armory the player's name who's using it,
Yeah.
and then that player essentially is the only one who, for a limited time, can pull things out and put things in the armory.
Yeah,
That could lead
yeah.
to a bit of griefing, but I imagine if you were to lock it behind rank at least staff sergeant, it wouldn't be too abused, and we could see actual progress on the team because then you have one person who's able to pump out weapons. But on that note, you might want a system to actually allow players to post orders. So maybe have like a bulletin board next to the armory where a player could say, have a list of things that they wish to have produced, so you could have mortars and so on and so forth.
Or I think that would probably be more for like the factory type thing. You can post your order for inside the factory, and it'll make whatever you want. And I'm not sure exactly what is the factory gonna make. Is it gonna make like just vehicles or like everything? I
Like
mean, what's the
your
deal with it?
guns and ammo.
Factories, to my knowledge, make everything that comes out of an armory, which I'd like to touch on that too, real quick. I feel like factories should be like a low tier armory. Like they make items, but for instance, whereas an armory would make mortar shells and gas grenades and RPGs, a factory would produce rifles, rifle ammo, SMGs, shotguns, grenades, the basic grenades, not the green ash. So whereas an armory is for sort of higher tier items that take longer to produce, a factory is for just sort of monotonous things that you need to pump out on a consistent beat.
Maybe like in bulk, like a factory
Yeah.
will make like instead of like five revolvers, it'll make like 20. It'll take a longer amount of time, but it'll give you more revolvers. You
Well, no,
know.
no. So here's what you do with the factory. They had a great idea. A factory can produce 3 items, and it produces all 3 items at the same time. So what you do is you have it produce rifles, rifle ammo, and grenades, or SMGs, SMG ammo, and then revolvers. And then you have to have several factories together to sort of create this complete chain of weaponry. So that way you can repeatedly supply the front line with more and more ammo and more weapons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty
Yeah.
neat. I
And then if
can't
you
wait to
combine
see
the factory
them do that.
system with the armory, then you sort of actually get a more complete package, because now the armory's job is to produce like HMGs and HMG belts. They supply half tracks, they supply mortar teams, they make the RPGs to combat a half track. You make green ash there. And at the same time, that also limits the sort of specialized heavy weapons, so you could possibly make those more powerful in response.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of heavy weapons, there's going to be a new weapon coming out. It's the howitzer. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's gonna be kind of similar to the artillery, but I think it's not gonna be able to be moved, and it's only one person mans it, and I think it's gonna be kind of like an anti-tank turret, sort of, only it's manned, and that sounds very exciting to me. What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be okay. You know, Deadlands. In Deadlands, nearby Liberation Post, we see that rusting artillery piece.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be that. So
It
we're
might.
basically going to
Basically,
build like an artillery tower.
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah.
thinking. It's gonna be similar
I don't
to it.
know what they have planned for it, but one thing that could be interesting is either if it was an unmanned piece, but you could essentially claim it, and if you were to put artillery shells in it and you were to walk out into the field, you could use your binoculars to spot for it, and then if you click, it essentially starts to turn towards that location and fire on it. Whereas either the other idea for it is that it could possibly be a sort of slightly longer ranged artillery, and you could have a player inside of it, and the player inside of it also is able to see out of it. So you're able to spot farther than normal and fire a bit farther than normal, but you're also completely immobile. So if the enemy artillery does manage to sniff out your position, then
Yeah,
they can
you're
easily
you're
destroy
done
it.
for. Yeah, most definitely. That way it'll keep some balance in the game, because otherwise those howitzers are going to be so OP it's not even funny.
Well, I mean, just the immovability is enough to sort of ward most players off of it. On maps like Deadlands, where you can have predictable front lines, it might be pretty good. On a map like Endless Shore, it's going to be a necessity if you want to win.
Yeah, you're going to have those howitzers down in
But
places.
Umbral Wildwoods, it could easily get blocked off, although moving from Foundry to the Colonial home base, it might be a bit powerful because of that large open field.
Yeah.
And on Upper Heartlands, I don't really see a good use for it. It's
Also,
such a
like in
wide, open map.
Callahan's Passage, right there, where Whitechapel is, and what is it, Whitechapel Crossing? That would be a prime place to put some howitzers down.
Whitechapel Crossing is going to be a really big place to see howitzers moving across.
Yeah.
Other than that, I feel like a howitzer in Overlook Hill would be cool. I feel like the howitzer, though, it should be a neutral structure. So once you build it, if you lose it, the enemy can take it over.
Yeah, most definitely. That'll give you more incentive to protect it and keep it on your side.
Yeah.
Speaking of new stuff, what about the motorcycles? What do you guys think about the motorcycles?
I like them, but I have not seen them be used enough in the maps. I feel like I missed out a bit in not being on the Upper Heartlands map and instead being on Deadlands. We didn't really get to see them used all that much. There were a few moments when we could have, because I know that we did some sneaky rear attacks, but I feel like this time around we could figure out very specific times to use them. They're a bit of a niche pick,
Yeah,
but
they're definitely not for everybody.
there are decent uses for them, because if you were to say, for instance, have two people in a motorcycle, each with 50 mats, or what is it, 79 is the maximum you can hold while being unencumbered.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
79
70.
mats and a hammer each. They could move into a rear line and set up like 3 foxholes. And then suddenly you have a notification whenever an enemy comes by, or sorry, not a notification. You have the foxholes shoot at supply trucks that are moving by. But that's also very much so if the enemy isn't protecting their rear.
Yeah, that would also give you that's what they were doing to us when they first came out. We had a lot of guys using mortars. They were running around with mortars on a motorcycle, and they
Yeah.
were shelling us from the rear. Me personally, I can't drive the motorcycle because I almost got myself banned for running people over so much. So I just kind of just self-imposed, just stay away from them. But they do seem like fun, lots of fun. What do you think, Poncho? Motorcycles?
They're really good, man. I use them all the time for
What-
everything, honestly.
How do you use them? What do you do with them?
I mean, I
Run
usually
us through
just
the
tell
thing.
my recon buddy who sits in the little sidecar, and whatever we got to go do. We got to find out what the enemy's doing first. If they have like walls up or foxholes, we got to recon it out, see what's going on. Then we just decide, all right, we're gonna go back to the base, get some grenades or go mortars, and just go back and forth. That's really all you gotta do with the motorcycle. Just keep going back and forth,
Sounds cool. Sounds good.
and it works really well though.
I would love it if they made a motorcycle actually a 2 inventory slot thing.
Yeah, it definitely needs at least another slot for more gas.
It
'cause
would have been nice.
I see motorcycles all over the map with no gas, like all the time. Yeah.
Well, also I was just thinking, like, so you could have that second slot and you could maybe sneak some grenades into it and do some sabotage in the enemy rear lines.
And maybe the motorcycle should have its own weight, like encumberment. So like you can't put like a full stack of BMATs in the motorcycle with the gas, plus like, your mortars and like another guy with the shells or whatever, when they hold them in their person.
So
Kind of
on,
counts
on
as
that
one
subject, what if you were to give the motorcycle like 2 slots, and then the first slot did not count towards encumbrance,
thing. And that would
but
be
the
like
second
gas
slot
or
or the
something.
third slot could encumber the motorcycle?
Yeah, if you put like too much heavy stuff in there. Yeah, most definitely. And that would be a way to kind of balance it out, so that way you don't have a whole bunch of guys just zipping around your rear, all the time.
Yeah, like, make the motorcycle have a low enough encumbrance that it couldn't hold 2 satchel charges, but it could hold maybe like a satchel charge and a couple grenades, or it couldn't hold a full stack of grenades, but it could hold maybe like 20.
Yeah, something like that.
That'd be nice.
Most definitely. And I think that should be for all vehicles, actually. In the future, they should have some kind of encumbrance to them.
I don't like the idea of the truck getting encumbered.
Well, that
or
would
the
be
harvester.
that would be like the truck's special ability. Like the motorcycle, it can zip around really fast, and that's its special ability. The truck, you can put, max stacks in the truck, and that would be its like special ability. And then maybe like the harvester gets like slower, the more it picks up, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I mean,
So
that would make it interesting because that would mean that the harvester still does need a truck driver to come and pick up the resources
yeah,
from his
yeah.
location.
Because if the harvester gets like full, it's gonna be slowed down to a crawl, kind of thing. Most
Yeah.
definitely. Try and have some of those
Going on
future
to a different
proofs.
subject. So, how do you two feel about the idea of possibly the creation of some items or the unpacking of some items being locked behind rank? Like a no rank who just entered the game, doesn't know what they're doing,
Yeah,
might not be able to pick up a satchel charge, for
that'd be a
example.
good
Mm,
idea.
I'm kind of
You know, they'd
on the
have to
fence
go.
with that, because there's some
All right,
guys
how
that
so?
are, well, because there's some people that are competent, but they haven't like played the game, and they just need someone to show them what to do.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to take away that ability for them to use it, because you never know, that no rank might be like a wizard with the heavy, you know, and that would just kind of hurt your own team, and it would make you have to use your commendations up to get him to a certain rank just to
I mean,
use that kind of
not any
thing.
sort of high rank. I'm saying like somebody with no rank, for instance, could not unpack a mortar. He could still pick up the mortar. He could still use the mortar if it were unpacked. He just can't run up to a chest full of mortars, take out mortars, and then immediately start bombarding the allied base in order to grief it.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. It's kind of like an anti-grief mechanism, because most of the
Yeah.
griefers have no ranks, I've
I
noticed.
mean, that's
So
because they're reprimanded
yeah,
normally.
they're reprimanded into oblivion. So
Yeah, they should have to go through like some kind of grind to get back up there. That privilege.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
actually,
that's
yeah. If you put it that way, yeah, I agree with you. That's a
like
good idea.
they're not able to produce items in the workshop such as the satchel charge or the wrench. The wrench.
Oh
Yeah.
A
man, the
person
wrench.
a person with no wrench cannot produce or take out of the workshop a wrench or satchel charge. They could take them from a chest or from the armory itself, but they could not pull those items out of the workshop, meaning that a person with no rank wouldn't have the ability to grief. At which point we now incentivize players to actually reprimand players who grief often.
And
Right.
plus it shows that the players that have higher ranks are trustworthy without, just at a glance, without having to like look at their name or anything. You say, oh, okay, that guy's a staff sergeant, he's cool, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, it also incentivizes players to actually work together, because if that low-ranking individual wants to be able to use the HMG, now he goes and talks to somebody, hey, how do I use this? It's not working. Oh, here, let me teach you.
Yeah,
It starts a
exactly.
conversation.
Let me unpack it for you and show you how to use this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good idea. Oh, also something that's going to be coming up soon is new models for the wardens and the colonials. So the
Dude.
characters are going to
Excited.
be looking different. Also, it's probably not going to be coming up anytime soon, like in the near future. But they're also
Ah,
talking
yeah.
about getting weapons and for the different sides, so you can have a colonial rifle or a warden rifle kind of thing, you know.
Hell
So
yeah.
that's going
Nice.
to be in the works. I'm excited to see that. And then what would the repercussions be of, like, you know, a warden using a colonial rifle? You know,
I
like
think
is
that it'll mostly be about what colors they are at first. I like the symmetry in this game. I like the fact that the wardens use weapons with the same statistics as the colonials. At that point, it's more down to strategy.
yeah. Or maybe like there's just like a special like warden gun, maybe, and then a colonial version of that gun, but they do like two different things, but like you can still use it. You know what I mean? If you get that gun off a dead warden, you can use that gun as a colonial. There's no limitation. You know.
The problem with that is that we use the same armories. When we take a town, we use the colonial armories to build things, or is it the warden armories?
Yeah, how are they
I
gonna do that? I wonder. How will they
I've
implement
always
that?
sort of viewed it as all of the armories in the game are basically warden armories because from what I understand from the little bits that I've gleaned from the community, the wardens were in a civil war before the colonials came along and they just sort of got out of it. That's why the countryside is so war torn, not because of the actual fighting between the colonials and the wardens. But then the colonials came along because I believe their own country was also war torn
Hmm.
and essentially devastated by it.
So it's
After
like a
moving to Warden
manifest destiny type of thing.
Yes. After the colonials moved in, that's why they're the colonials, they colonized. In the Warden's territory, the Wardens were defending themselves. Well, not defending themselves, they actually attacked the colonials without even asking them anything about what was going on. But
Shoot first, ask
Right.
questions later.
And I am interested to see more about the actual story. I want to see some, I don't know, maybe something like in the game in the maps where you can actually go and see something that will give you some of the story, you know, maybe certain
Dude,
spots.
soldier
Dead
notes.
Soldiers Journals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
soldier
soldier
notes.
journals. Yeah, soldier notes. We need some soldier notes, devs. Get on that.
Devs, get on it. Give
Those
us
poor guys.
lore,
There's only like
fact
seven
Find
of
them in
them.
bushes.
Let's see. Oh, another thing that I always want, and I want to be able to see what coalition someone's in, like with a tag like above their head. You know what I mean? Like if they're in a coalition, and it'll have like their name and the rank and all that. But I want to like a some kind of marker that says like they're in Lima or in Papa or something like that.
Yeah,
I
You
don't
give
know.
think
them
that would be too
abbreviation.
hard. The last subject I believe was about coalition tags.
Oh yeah. So one thing I want to talk about is the coalition tags that's just right on top of the name. So yeah, that would be a good idea, I think.
It
So
would be also interesting if you had Lima officers so you could see, oh, this guy is one of the people in charge of Lima.
yeah, maybe have like a little coalition and an O next to it or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great, I think.
And the guy who started the coalition should have like a captain sign or something, a
Yeah,
leader sign.
exactly. Like some kind of like
Founder.
founder or something
Founder.
like that. Most definitely. That's like a great idea.
I honestly think that you should just have the founder have the officer sign because I feel like in most coalitions, being an officer or the founder are sort of swappable, interchangeable.
Yeah, most
Because at this
definitely.
moment, what, like 12 of us in this Discord are all,
At
I
least
believe at least warrant
warrant.
officer
Yeah, at
too.
least warrant too.
Yeah,
Like
you're
pretty
right.
much everybody in our coalition can start another one. And then maybe like breaking up the coalitions, like splitting it off. So say you're already in a coalition and you want to like break off into another part, maybe having like a Papa 2 kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? And then that way you
that's
can
pretty
say,
cool.
okay,
Maybe.
Papa 2 is our logistics wing. Papa is our main
Right.
fighting force kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I feel like that might be using a bit too much, considering that they already use the Papa 2 and Alpha 1 call signs in order to represent that you have gone through the entire military alphabet of coalitions. That's sort
Yeah,
of their
yeah.
catch-all for it. What instead might be interesting is if you could form joint operations. So you can already claim things for coalitions, but let's say you wanted to work with Coalition Foxtrot and you were Coalition Juliet. What you could do is mark coalition claimed trucks, very specific ones, as a joint operations asset. At which point in time, people from either coalition can come and go from this truck or can use this barracks.
Yeah, that would be a
So
good idea too. Yeah, most
So
definitely.
say you're working together, like I said, close in hand with this Juliet coalition. Juliet is primarily logistics. They have a lot of guys in the back line running resources to the front. Maybe they have an artillery piece going. Now what you can do is you can mark the logistics trucks as a joint operation truck. So once the Juliet truck gets to the front line, Foxtrot can now pull all the stuff out, put it in the outpost, and then wave Juliet back off after maybe sending them a commend or two for being so polite.
Yeah, because that does become a problem when you're trying to work with other coalitions, but everything is locked, and that's due to the griefers mostly. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't lock anything up if people would just, share with each other.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
what if you just want to like fill your truck up with guns, ammo, and nades, and just stop at the front and be like, "Hey, like, get all this stuff. It's all here."
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that, but I'm
On
just
that
afraid
subject,
someone's gonna run into
so
like the river with all of your ammo.
so here's
True,
an
I seen that
interesting thought.
happen. I have a video of that
Oh.
happening.
Interesting thought on that subject. So I feel like the vehicle factory upgrades don't quite do enough. I would find it interesting if we could get maybe like certain, for instance, once you get to level 2, you get upgrades for the trucks. Maybe you could upgrade a truck to act as an armory. Or not an armory, but as a barracks, essentially. Well, not for the respawns, but you could pull guns and ammunition out of it without being in the coalition, but to a limited degree.
Maybe
So, like, you could,
bring back the requisition just for like vehicles kind of thing.
I feel like vehicles and barracks are a good way to keep it. I feel like you could keep it in outposts because pulling out something from the stockpile when you're in the middle of a heated conflict and you're fighting literally right on top of your outpost, that's wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, if you're worrying about like stuff taking too long in your outpost, you could probably just kiss that outpost goodbye. In my
Yeah.
in my
Yeah, for
opinion,
sure.
like it's already kind of done for. So, but like definitely
I mean,
having like a truck with like a requisition on it would be really good. I
yeah.
liked the requisition, but I saw the flaws in
Also,
it too.
also
Yeah.
it could be really cool. So for instance, you could have like when you upgrade your truck to do this, like the food trucks where how they have like that open on the side and
Yeah,
they have like
yeah.
the
Yeah.
windows and stuff. Imagine
Yeah.
if when an armory truck or basically when a requisition truck came up to the front line, if it stopped, it sort of opened up a side slot like a pavilion almost, I think, or an overhang, and like there was just a little wall
Yeah.
of guns on it. When you walked up to it, you press E and you can access a requisition menu,
Oh, okay. And
which is
then that's
separate.
it. Like activates the truck to be a requisition now. So, like, would the truck be
Yeah.
stuck there until like you like pack it back up and then drive it
I
off,
think that
kind
that
of
would be a
thing?
good idea. At the same
Yeah,
time, the back of this truck is still accessible. So the way it works is from either side of the truck, the long sides. If you get into there, then you can requisition things. Anybody can access that inventory
yeah,
while it's set up. But the back of the truck, if you go up to there, you still can't access it. But that's because when you go up to the back of the truck, you access its inventory, so you can pull out fuel or basic mats or other things. So
yeah.
the difference
That would be
is anybody
awesome.
coming. Yeah. Another thing that might be interesting is say you did have a barracks truck. Now this would be like a tier 3 vehicle factory thing or a tier 4 even. It could respawn troops and it would be armor plated. But it also is much slower. So you sort of roll it up to the front line and you park it and you hope and pray the enemy doesn't artillery your truck in.
Yeah, yeah. Which is gonna happen. I mean, me and Rant last night were just blowing up trucks. Every truck we saw, we were blowing it up. We just broke their logistics back. So I don't
Honestly, I don't
know.
think that they had any logistics players, but I do feel like they
they
didn't
they gave up.
appreciate our efforts.
They gave up. They went home, man. We were
Yeah.
creaming them. Oh man, good times.
That brings me into yet another subject. Surrender mechanics. I know nobody likes the sound of surrender,
I don't
especially in
like it.
our in our
I don't
in
like
our
it.
in our own personal warden side. It's a bit of a dirty word, but there were points in the game where it's like the enemy is consistently bringing logistics up. We have nothing but pistols. We can't even access our refineries because they have an artillery zeroed in on it. And I feel like at that point in time, you should be able to say, all right, we lost. Let's go on to
Maybe
the next game so that way we can try again.
maybe utilize the F1 button and just click the surrender. And if enough of your team
Yeah.
decides to surrender, then it calls the game. That's it.
Here's
know,
the
it'd be
thing.
funny.
I feel like
I
you
feel
have
like
to
they could
be
use trolls could use that though. That might not be a good idea.
well.
Yeah, it would
You
suck.
So what you do is you only allow really high-ranking players to initiate a surrender vote, and then only like sergeants and above could participate in it.
Oh, okay, kind of like the guys on the ground kind of thing.
Yeah. Brass decides, no, we can't hold this position anymore. I'm sorry, but we're abandoning you.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool is as soon as you surrender, your model just like puts his hands up and he just walks around like that forever.
Yeah, they just have their hands up.
That'll be cool.
All right, I think we're going to be coming close to the end of this, you guys. Let's see here. A few other things, though. Some advice for new players. Say they're watching this video and they've never even heard of Foxhole or anything, and they're like, "Well, it sounds interesting. I'm going to download it. It's free." What advice can you guys give them?
First, this is the absolute biggest thing. Go onto your internet browser, search up something called Discord. It should be a chat service. Download that. And then go into Foxhole, press escape once you're in game, and then click chat on Discord. There is a large Discord community on Foxhole that is always waiting for
And
more
it's
players.
underutilized like so much. I mean, the coordination that we could get on Discord. Oh my gosh. I mean, just
Yes.
think about it.
Now, we ourselves don't actually use the public Foxhole Discord just because at this point we're large enough that it is rather difficult to get what we need said out there.
Yeah, yeah.
But we are looking for new people quite often. And if you can hop on the public Discord, chances are you'll find somebody who will take you into their group and take you under their wing.
Yep. Pancho, any other advice for new players?
You just want to grab a gun and pray. No, I'm playing.
Press M.
No, I
Press
definitely go like either get Discord or go on YouTube, just look up Foxhole, how to play Foxhole or something, might pop up.
There
Yeah.
are a large number of tutorials on YouTube already.
For
Also,
sure.
if you're ever stuck there and you don't know where the fighting's going on, don't ask where's the front first. Press the M key on your keyboard. It will bring up the in-game map. Scroll out a bit. Usually you're scrolled in when you first spawn in the game. Coalitions, as in groups of people who are at least mildly organized, are able to place down map markers on the map. Usually they'll ask for things. You know what you can do? You can find out what they're doing and help.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Also, another thing that a good piece of advice is when you first get into the game, don't try and like get a truck and all of that kind of stuff. What you should do is probably just hang around in the scrapyard and make yourself useful, and guaranteed a coalition's gonna roll by and they're gonna say, "Hey, this guy's scrapping. He's being useful. Come with us, a guy we don't know. We're gonna show you how to play this game." And it'll definitely expand your gameplay by a whole lot, because this game is about teamwork. Is mostly what it's about.
I can confirm this to be 100% true. I have kidnapped at least 7 people on the Foxhole public game just because I saw them scrapping for 10 plus minutes. I was like, hey friend, want to blow up everything?
Yep. Exactly. You can stick with it for longer than 10 minutes, so you're coming with us.
Yeah.
You've been drafted.
You've been drafted.
Right.
Get your gear in the back, you're joining ass.
Assault support services.
That's right. Just in
Get
case
your
you guys
rear.
didn't know.
In gear.
I think we already talked about body armor, right? Or did we not?
No, we actually hadn't touched on body armor at all.
Okay. What are
So-
your guys' thoughts on that?
I love the idea of being able to have up-armored uniforms. We have a whole 2 inventory slots in Foxhole that aren't currently used on the player model.
Yeah, I would
And I feel
definitely like to have some armor.
I feel like it's a long way off, and one of the big reasons why they haven't implemented it yet is because they didn't even have the player models done. I
Yeah.
feel like once they have the player models in-game, there's a larger chance of it happening. it's going to really help out because I imagine that they take up a lot of encumbrance. So you probably couldn't have body armor and grenades and a med kit and an HMG.
Yeah, you're gonna have to start making decisions on what you're gonna keep in your inventory at that point.
Yeah. But for example, you could have body armor and an SMG. At which
Yeah.
point you'd actually be very useful because two guys with body armor and SMGs could sort of provide mobile cover for the rest of your group. They could sort of casually stroll across an open field and sort of lay down fire on enemies.
Yeah, they could take a hit or two and be like, "Hey, the main force, watch out, we're taking hits up here," kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah.
on that subject, what if they sort of had so we already have the bleeding mechanic in game. What if
Mhm.
they could take essentially triple the amount of damage that a normal player can? Triple sounds like a lot until you realize that we die instantaneously to one grenade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
a person with this body armor, when they first get hit, it'd make a ting sound. Nothing happens. Maybe your armor looks a bit scraped up. At the second hit, it makes like more of a thump. And at that point in time, your sort of armor looks really, really beat up.
And then maybe they bleed out on the third hit,
On the third
and the
hit, they're
bleeding
just a normal
mechanic
player
kicks
model.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, like your
But-
armor breaks or something right after.
Yeah. Now, an
And then
HMG
you're
would
by yourself.
devastate armored targets.
Yeah, yeah. That would be
Yeah,
like the
that-
counter to an armored target. Is if you have
Yeah.
an HMG, you would take them out, kind of thing.
I don't quite know if this game is meant to be a World War II game or World War One. It feels more World War One more often than not.
From what
And
I
I would
understand,
find it-
it's like World
It's its
War
own
One.
thing.
It's like World War One, but like if it kept on going, kind of thing, sort of.
Yeah, sort
Like
of like
into World
really
War
late
II.
World War One.
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that would be really good to have is manlets. Manlets is honestly some medieval age technology, but it would be very useful in this game. Basically, it'd be like a mobile wall and you could pick it up. So
And
like
roll
an
it.
artillery piece minus the game, or minus the gun, I mean. Slip the tongue. Minus the gun, and you could sort of pick it up with an ally and move it forwards. It would have a large amount of damage resistance, and you could use it to sort of push across a bridge or push down an alleyway. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
You can
it,
block
it
it off.
obviously, yeah, it obviously wouldn't actually be as powerful as an HMG or a full-on half track, but you could use it to help push because it could have maybe even more health than a half track. But because it's slower, you have people moving this, not an engine, and because it has no gun.
Yeah, you can just have some
sort of-
windows, and then they can utilize the the new mounting thing, for the heavy
That's
machine
actually a good
guns.
idea.
And then you just roll it up, put
I
it where
feel
you
like
want, open
mounting
up the
would also
window.
be a decent mechanic to have on literally all of the guns. I mean, if I can mantle a structure, I should probably be able to, like, when I shoot while crouched, shoot over it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. We'll see what the devs think. Let's see how this mounting heavy machine guns works out for us, because I have a feeling that's gonna totally change how this game is played. To be honest with you.
I do like our chances better of HMGs being more useful. I wish that they were, because I could totally see a single solid HMG gunner constantly rolling with a squad.
Yeah, I usually like to have one around just so that way we can have it in case something happens. Mostly on the half track, since it uses the same ammo. I usually tell my gunner to carry a packed heavy, just in case, we gotta retreat. If we survive, usually we don't. So, but you never know. So, any other last thoughts or ideas, guys? Poncho?
You know what would be cool is if the chests were a little different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
If you
If
wanted
you
to
built them
like,
as colonials and wardens, it'd look different.
yeah, kind of, but like more for your own team. Like, all right, there's a chest for the scrap. You want to know that the chest is for scrap, and this chest over here is for guns. Like That's separation. And this chest over here is for first aid.
Maybe have some like icons that you can scroll through on top, you know, have like a cross or
Yeah.
something like
Or
that. Yeah.
maybe
really,
just like 2 more chest design or something, you know?
Yeah.
for scrap, you could even go further. Like a scrap chest, its advantage to labeling it as a scrap chest is that it's actually open topped, and when you put scrap in it, it sort of looks like it starts filling up. So a full scrap chest will like be almost overflowing.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. Just like maybe 2 more chest design or something like that.
I would
That'd be
also
cool.
like to be able to pick up the chest and load them into the truck and have them
Dude,
as a
yeah.
slot, take up a slot. You know what I mean?
Chests take up 4 slots.
Or like 4, yeah, 4 slots in
That'd
a
be
truck.
nice. Yeah.
And it takes 2 people to move the chest. You can't just have one
Actually,
person pick them up and move it. You know what I mean? So
Yo,
that way
side by side. Hell yeah.
it'll
Different-
require logistics to roll around with 2
So-
people in the truck at all times.
so a different idea. What if you had like a crating mechanic?
Yeah, exactly.
You could,
exactly. You can just crate it all up in the chest.
So a crate is, you know, like the boxes, the shipment crates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You basically have those, and it takes up 4 inventory slots, but it instantaneously over encumbers you. You can put 9 items into a shipment crate.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
9, it has 9 slots. So it takes
Right.
up 4 slots, and it has 9, but you can't put a shipment crate in a shipment crate, of course.
Yeah, of course not. That would like just not work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna put it in a truck.
Yes. In a truck, because of the shape of it, you have what, 12 slots? But one is always going to be taken up by fuel, so you could fit at most 3 shipment crates in your truck.
Yeah,
Right.
and then whatever like odds and ends you have left over, you can just throw in there maybe
That's-
for fuel,
Right.
something like that.
That doesn't actually increase the size of your inventory too much, because you gain essentially what, 5 slots per crate.
And
That's
Yeah.
15.
and
That's a
in
lot.
all
So
in
it's
all
fair.
reality, you know, most of this stuff would be like either packed stuff or even unpacked stuff. You know what I mean? Because you're wanting to move a lot of stuff around in the first
Yeah.
place. I mean, it's not like, you know, you're gonna be driving around with a truck and you're gonna go into the truck, pull out the crate, get the gun, load the gun. You know what I mean? That's just, you know, you're just gonna drop off that crate at the fob, and whoever's at the
maybe-
fob is gonna deal with it from there. You know,
Yeah.
unpack the gun.
Or maybe you could basically make these shipments out of things that you normally couldn't pack together, like gas masks.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know that
Or
I
artillery shells.
gas mask far more often if we were actually able to get gas masks to the front. But as it is, if you're bringing a truck full of gas masks, then like you have to think to yourself, is there something I could have actually taken that would have been useful?
Yeah, exactly.
And the other one has 70.
Can we just put all the ammo in there, Viper?
Honestly, if you're trying to take gas masks, I almost feel like it'd be better to just take 2 people with you and have them each load up with a full inventory of gas masks.
Yeah, that's usually how we do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, guys, I think this is a good first show. Let's hopefully, if you guys liked it and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I'd like to thank Stranger Days and Super Poncho Man.
You already know. Got you.
All right, yeah, got
Bye,
you, boy.
everybody. Have a good
Yeah.
day, y'all.
Thank you, and come back and see us again. Bye bye.